Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Damme and you are watching Flick Connection, and because it's Monday, it's time for the Flicks of the Week. Every Monday I do the Flicks of the Week where I tell you about my top picks across all the major streaming services, plus some other things you can watch online this week to keep you entertained all week. But as usual, let's start this list off with my Amazon Prime picks. So Snake Eyes is a movie directed by Brian De Palma, starring Nicolas Cage, Gary Sinise, and I've been wanting to recommend it on a Flicks of the Week for a while now. I've just let some other things supersede it, but this is a really great murder mystery movie. It takes place on a fight night, on the last night that this theater is to be open, and Nicolas Cage plays kind of a dirty cop. And the thing that's really great about this movie is the whole opening sequence leading up to the start of the fight and the murder that takes place is all done in one shot. Now, it's not really one shot, they faked it a little bit, but it's a bunch of really long shots put together, and it works really well. It keeps you in it. A lot happens as you follow Nicolas Cage around this arena. And this movie is a classic murder mystery in the sense that it's almost like it's a mansion, the lights go out, the lights come back on, and the butler's dead, and everyone has to figure out what's going on. It's a modern retelling of that very classic story, and it works really well here. And De Palma's a really great director. This is far from being his best directorial work, but it still makes for a really great movie. Now, The King of Comedy stars Robert De Niro and is directed by Martin Scorsese, and the reason it makes the list this week is because Joker is coming out, and there is clearly a lot of influence from Joker to The King of Comedy. Now, The King of Comedy is a little bit more of a dark comedy, and I don't think Joker is going in that direction, but cinematically, they lifted some shots, things like that. It's got a similar backstory. And in this movie, Robert De Niro plays an aspiring comedian, and he just wants to get on this show. The show hosted by Jerry Lewis, which is basically like the Johnny Carson show, and he's willing to do anything to get there, including crimes. So it's funny, it's a weird role for De Niro, and it's a really great primer for Joker, which is just about to come out in theaters. How can you justify destroying a $7 million mini-mall to rescue a girl whose ransom was only $25,000? Fuck you, lady! On Hulu this week, I'm recommending Demolition Man, which is just a really great 90s action movie. It's crazy, it's funny, there's decent action in it, but the sci-fi element in this is just so crazy. It's this weird future where everything's like completely controlled by the government and corporations, but everything's safe. And then Wesley Snipes plays a really wild bad guy. Stallone has a really great role. Sandra Bullock has a really funny role. The supporting cast is really funny in this. And then just crazy sci-fi stunts and shootouts and weird guns and weird sex stuff that's just hilarious to watch. If you never bothered to watch this one because you didn't think there was much to it, this is a gem in terms of action movies from the 90s. Now, way on the other side of the spectrum is Baskin. Now, this one has to come with a warning. This is not for everybody. This is a very demented dissension into hell is basically what it is. Very grim, dark imagery, not for anyone with a weak stomach. In fact, I'm kind of wondering why I'm even recommending it. I'm recommending it because cinematically, it's a really impressive movie. It's really well put together, but oh my God, is it dark? So tread lightly watching this one. I guarantee you some of you watching this will have to turn it off. And now I'm remembering the reason I have it on this week's list is because I've got massive amounts of horror recommendations coming at you very soon as we approach Halloween. I mean, potentially too much to cram into single videos, so be on the lookout for those recommendations. But I probably won't be recommending horror movies on Hulu because there aren't that many. This is a good one though. Alright, on Shudder this week, one of my favorite zombie movies, which is called Zombie. Now, it goes by a couple of names. Zombie 2 is a name. It's actually a French film that was dubbed, and it's actually dubbed pretty well. And it's got cheesy special effects right alongside really impressive special effects. This is just a great classic. Zombies rising up out of the dirt, slow walking, but there's a surprising amount of action in this one. There's a zombie fighting a shark that looks incredibly convincing. There's the scene through the door with the eyeball. Those of you that have seen it know what I'm talking about. This is a cult classic. I love it. I like to watch it every Halloween, and you can check it out right now on Shudder. On HBO this week, I'm recommending kind of an oddball one for me to recommend, and that's Rampage with Dwayne Johnson. Now, this one's basically like Transformers or Godzilla. However, I felt like this one was done right. Now, this is not a strong recommendation for me. I find these movies to be somewhat mindless, but Rampage had the right tone in the sense that it's a PG-13 movie with giant monsters destroying buildings, but they had the right tone. It's just fun enough and just funny enough to keep it engaging and interesting, and it's pretty epic. There's a lot of action sequences. I was really surprised at how big the scope was on this one, so if you were on the fence on Rampage, it gets a pretty decent recommendation from me this week. On STARZ this week, I'm recommending the Twilight Zone movie. I love this movie. This is another one that I have to watch almost every Halloween. I love anthology films, and this is one of the best to me. Every sequence in this is so well done. They're all so different. They're all based on classic Twilight Zone episodes, but they're different enough that they're updated, meaning they stay fairly true to the originals and they just improve upon them enough, and they're in full color, and they're just more cinematic, and it just all works really well. And another horror movie that's not gonna scare your pants off, but that is just a lot of fun to watch. On Cinemax this week, I'm recommending Match Point, which is a Woody Allen movie that is really surprising. This is actually a thriller. It stars Scarlett Johansson, and it's like a relationship thriller kind of a thing, kind of like a Fatal Attraction kind of thing without spoiling too much. And it really gets twisted and kind of crazy. This is a dark movie, but it's so well directed, and it's such a departure from what you think of when you think of Woody Allen. And it's really just expertly directed. I mean, he's got so many films under his belt. By the time he got around to this one, he really knew how to pace stuff out. To me, this feels like the type of movie Alfred Hitchcock would have made if he was still alive when this came out. It's kind of that good. If you've never watched it, you're in for a treat with this one. I'm in danger of overselling it at this point, but it is really good.
You have no idea what's coming.
On Netflix this Friday, the 27th of September, In the Shadow of the Moon comes out. This is a new Netflix original movie from the same director as a couple of movies I really love, like Stakeland and Cold in July. Two movies I've recommended a ton on this channel. I've been really looking forward to see what they come out with next, and it's a Netflix original about hunting down a serial killer. Comes out this Friday. I have not seen it. Odds are I will be doing a full review on it on Friday, so stay tuned for that video. And then also from Netflix this week, because I do like to give you two from Netflix, The Eyes of My Mother is one of the darkest movies I've ever seen. It came out in 2016, I've only just seen it recently, and it's my strongest recommendation of the week, with the caveat that you require two things to watch and enjoy this movie. One is an iron gut, and the other is some sort of affinity for art house film. This is a slow movie. This is an artistic movie. It's all black and white. There's not a lot of dialogue, so you do have to be very patient. If you don't find that that's you, you're probably not going to enjoy this movie. If you don't find that you can handle very, very dark subject matter, you're not going to enjoy this movie. If you love the sound of both of those things, make this the first movie you watch this week. Trust me, it's great, but I literally had to take a shower afterwards. I felt so awful, but I could not stop watching this one. And then the show of the week is Peaky Blinders. Now, I love this show. It's 4 seasons in. Season 5 comes out in early October. It'll be available on Netflix. It's from the UK. It's a really great gangster show, and the reason I'm recommending it now this far ahead, you still got a couple of weeks, is there's 4 seasons, but they're each only 6 episodes. So you could binge watch this in preparation for season 5. If you love just old school gangster stuff, this series is an absolute must watch. Plus, I love the soundtrack. It's loaded with Jack White, Nick Cave, PJ Harvey, just musicians that I love. The soundtrack to this show is amazing. The performances are great. The style's great. I love everything about it. Before moving on to the rest of my picks, if you like this type of content and you're new here, definitely click that subscribe button and be sure to click that little bell icon so you get notified when new videos just like this one get released. But the Flicks of the Week comes out every single Monday.
Run. No, we have to wait for Nathan's signal. Nathan, hurry! Run! No, we have to wait! He's gonna fall through the trap! Run!
Now, I don't see anything exciting coming to theaters this week. However, I've got a really great rental for you. It's one of the best horror movies I have seen in a while, and it just came out recently. It's in the limited theater release, and you can rent it on most VOD platforms. I know Amazon doesn't have it. I rented it on Vudu, and I know it's available on other big ones, but Haunt from 2019, don't get it confused because there's a couple movies by that name, is really, really good. Now, I don't want to oversell it because it's best to watch this one with minimal expectations, but it's about a group of college kids that go to a, they get invited to a haunted house out in the country. There's tons of those around where I live, and they're fun to go to. Now, the thing I really liked about this movie is it is actually scary. The antagonists have a really great twist to them that I loved. That, trust me, that doesn't spoil anything. And then the haunted house itself was really creative and kind of cool. Like, I just enjoyed watching them go through the haunted house, and then crazy stuff starts to happen and the movie gets pretty wild. Well worth renting. A really great Halloween watch too because it takes place on Halloween night, and it's just fun enough, it's just different enough to really feel fresh, but really familiar at the same time. All right, before getting to my short of the week, I gotta tell longtime viewers, if you wanted to support the feature-length version of The Stylist, which is another short that I've recommended, there's a link to that short in the description, as well as a Kickstarter link. There are only a couple of days left. So if you want to support it, sign up now. If you sign up to support it like I did, there's really great benefits. The $25 tier lets you see it on opening night, and you could just, if 2 people watch it at home, it's paid for itself. I've supported it. If you want to be part of the filmmaking process, I'm not getting paid to say this, I would recommend going over there, checking it out, and seeing if you want to throw them a few bones to help get them over the line for their goal, which ends this week. Now, my short of the week for this week is called Albatross Soup, and this one's animated, and basically what it is a riddle, and they recorded a bunch of people trying to solve this riddle, and they've animated all of their conjectures into this really psychedelic animation style. It's really great. It's very grim and traditional Flick Connection style, but the imagery's not overly grim. Most people could handle this one, but it's fun to kind of watch and try to figure it out ahead of the people in the film. It's something very different in terms of short film, but I really enjoyed watching this one. There's a link to that in the description as well. And then my video of the week is actually a full podcast. If you love podcasts, Rob Zombie was on the Joe Rogan Experience this past week. It's one of my favorite episodes of that show, just because Rob Zombie, really great horror director, and obviously they talk music quite a bit, but they also talk horror movies a lot, and it was really fun to listen to those two guys because they're both really, really into horror movies. If you didn't know that, Joe Rogan's a big horror movie guy as well. And then 2 quick updates on the channel. The channel is growing. I'm excited. Thank all the Patreon supporters. Here are their names. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link to that in the description. But these guys are literally keeping the lights on, so thank them in the comments at the very least. But also, my video last week that literally is about sex, blood, and bullets. If you haven't seen it, that link's in the description. I was almost certain it would be demonetized. It was, but interestingly enough, YouTube overturned it and they monetized the video, which I think is great because it does follow all of their guidelines. It brings it up to the line. I really pushed it with that one, but I stayed within their guidelines and they honored it. And so I think that's a good move in the right direction for YouTube. I'm really happy that they did that. That means I can bring you more content like that in the future. It's one of my most popular videos. If you haven't seen it yet, again, link in the description, go check it out. But I will keep making the flicks of the week as long as y'all keep watching them. But thanks for checking out this week's episode, and you will see me on the next one.